Welcome to Hawaii's Best podcast, where we help you prepare for your next trip to Hawaii. Discover the experiences, businesses, and stories that make Hawaii the Aloha state. And now, your host, Bryan Murphy.
Aloha kako, and welcome to another episode of Hawaii's Best. I'm your host, Bryan Murphy, the owner of Hawaii's Best, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. I am back in the studio. If you can't tell, maybe you can, but the last couple weeks have been recording remotely. We were traveling last week as a family to Lake Tahoe, and that was pretty awesome. We've never been there before, and it's a very big lake, but it's encouraging to see because we went over Memorial Day weekend, and it's encouraging to see that people are traveling again. And obviously with summer here, maybe you have plans to travel, and there's just some things you should probably know if you are traveling to Hawaii anytime soon. And that's what this episode is all about. It seems like the rules and the way things are opening up are changing all the time. So I want to give you kind of the latest where things are at right now. As of right now, if you are traveling from the mainland of the United States to Hawaii, you still need to test negative 72 hours prior to your final leg's departure in order to bypass quarantine into Hawaii. So that hasn't changed. Nothing has changed there, but there has been some other changes as far as if you follow our Instagram account, there has been some changes that we've been announcing when it comes to inter-island travel. That only is for people who have been vaccinated in Hawaii. So if you've been vaccinated in Hawaii, you can travel inter-island kind of with this vaccine passport without having to test, without having to quarantine, if you've been vaccinated in Hawaii. Most of you who listen to this do not live in Hawaii, and you are traveling from the mainland of the U.S. or maybe even Japan, Canada. We have a lot of listeners there. But as of right now, nothing has changed. Things are going to start changing, I would say, in the next month. A couple episodes ago, we had Lieutenant Governor Josh Green on the podcast, and we talked a little bit about the timeline and how this whole vaccine passport thing is going to roll out. The biggest news is happening on June 15th, and the travel update that we were given is that starting June 15th, those entering Hawaii from out of state that have been vaccinated in Hawaii, so residents, can bypass quarantine without having a pre-travel test. So that is good news because the next step in this rollout will be for mainland travelers who have been vaccinated, and that means that they can bypass eventually, not yet, they can eventually bypass without having to test. I think the main important thing to note is that taking this vaccine is, in my opinion, it's a personal choice. So if you choose to be vaccinated and get the vaccine, that's your choice. And if you choose not to, that's your choice too. And the important thing to note in all of this is that if you choose not to get vaccinated, you can still travel to Hawaii by doing the test and testing negative from a trusted travel partner that the state has partnered up with. So to get that list of trusted travel partners, go to HawaiiCovid19.com, HawaiiCovid19.com. All right. So after June 15th, this is funny, guys. Like there's just there's like so many rules and stuff. Like I don't even know what to report on because it's always changing, but I'm just being transparent with you guys. But okay, after June 15th, this is what's going to happen. So stay with me. I'm going to read this verbatim. After June 15th, once Hawaii's population reaches a fully vaccinated rate of 60%, anyone who has been fully vaccinated in the U.S. and is traveling from the continental U.S. or Alaska to Hawaii is exempt from testing and quarantine. So that number of 60% is key. So that's kind of the, I guess the gatekeeper that we're watching is seeing how many people get vaccinated in Hawaii. Okay. Number 2 is once Hawaii's population reaches a fully vaccinated rate of 70%, 70, all travel restrictions will end, including the indoor mask mandates. And as of right now, there's around 54%, I think the last time I checked, of fully vaccinated people in Hawaii. So once Hawaii hits that 60% of vaccinated people within the state, then that means those who have been fully vaccinated in the U.S. mainland and is traveling from the continental U.S. or Alaska to Hawaii will be exempt from testing and quarantine. So, stay tuned for when that 60% will be, and be sure to subscribe to this and we'll keep you updated and all that stuff that you need to know. All right. So that's probably as candid as I will be when it comes to this whole reopening effort. It has been smooth in the sense that the numbers in Hawaii have been down and things are moving forward. Kauai has rejoined the Safe Travels program. Kauai County was doing this resort bubble thing that lasted for a couple months, but now they're back in the normal Safe Travels program, which is good. So stay tuned for what is next, and I'll be sure to get you all the latest info. You can follow us on our social channels or just subscribe to this podcast because things are moving fast. And I think this summer, things are really going to start feeling a bit more normal. So I am hopeful for that. All right, but we are going to be talking about what to know before you visit Hawaii. And this is kind of an updated list. I think the first thing you got to know is how to navigate the Safe Travels app, the Safe Travels testing and everything that comes into that. And we did an episode, pretty in-depth episode back on episode 50, hawaiisbesttravel.com/episode 50. And you can take a listen to that and get all the notes for that. Not much has changed there. If you are traveling from the mainland of the U.S., everything is still the same. The things I just mentioned briefly, things that are going to happen, that are probably going to happen for mainland travelers. But as of right now, pretty much everything that was said and outlined in episode 50 of the podcast is still in effect for those who are traveling to Hawaii from the mainland. All right. The other thing to know before you come to Hawaii is you got to know when to come to Hawaii. This is your choice, but I think this summer, and you probably have seen some of the reports of the rental car shortages, but I think this summer is going to be crazy in Hawaii. So if you can wait a little bit longer to get that Hawaii vacation in, maybe this fall, maybe early next year, I think you'll be in for a better time. Not to say that this summer is going to be a bust, because I think this summer is going to be huge and crowded. And honestly, Hawaii is going through some growing pains right now, meaning that there weren't any travelers for like a year. And all of a sudden the floodgates are open up and a bunch of people are back. So it's important to just know that there's some growing pains with that, meaning, 40% or so of the rental car fleets were sold off. There's this supply and demand that is pretty crazy right now. So pay attention to the news. We can't update every single thing here because this is not possible. So if you're planning on traveling this summer, be aware of that and also have that plan B, plan C and D ready. So you got to know when to come. Now, it's possible your ability to travel is limited to work and school schedules, and that's all good. But if you're someone who can come whenever, it's helpful to consider your goals for the trip to help you schedule it. So if you want to whale watch while you're in Hawaii, you're going to want to come like December-ish to April-ish. You'll be able to do some whale watching then. Spring and summer obviously have the highest rates, and fall and winter are some of the lowest rates. Obviously, besides some of the big winter holidays, Christmas, New Year's, stuff like that. Some of the times that I love recommending people to visit Hawaii is late January, February. March can start to get pretty wet, but also September, like late September, once school goes back in, and October are pretty good areas to visit. The next one is be prepared to slow down, especially if you're heading to the islands from the mainland, which I know most of you are. Each island has its own pace, and, Waikiki and Honolulu, for instance, is a faster paced and obviously a larger city, Honolulu, but try to have the mindset of being a guest rather than a tourist. And plus, you're on vacation, so remember to slow down. And what I mean by being a guest rather than a tourist is a guest is someone who is coming with a posture of wanting to learn the culture, wanting to experience the culture, wanting to ask questions, just wanting to get a feel of the place and to be kind of immersed in the culture. Now, the word tourist, it's not a negative word, but what I mean by that is, tourist is having the mindset of going to a place to just kind of switch off, get on vacation. Whereas being a guest is, you can still do those things, but it's just being more so in a posture of being a learner of culture rather than just getting your checklist and making sure you do that luau and you go to that beach and you do that thing and getting your checklist off in, those 7 days. And then you just go back home. Where a guest is really want to encourage you to be a part of, as best you can, just the rhythm of Hawaii and just the vibe and feel of Hawaii. It's got a different feel. If you've never been before, as soon as you land, it just feels different. The air is different. It's sweeter. And you just got to be prepared to slow down and just let Hawaii happen. Next thing we covered recently on a podcast with our unofficial cultural practitioner, Kahanui Solatorio, is know some Hawaiian words. Obviously, you know aloha, but do you know the depth of that word? We even did a whole podcast with Kahanui about the word aloha, and it's amazing. I'll link that below, show notes. You obviously want to learn mahalo. Mahalo means thank you. You'll want to learn a lot more. And it just kind of helps prepare you. And again, it goes back to what we previously talked about, is being prepared to slow down and being part of the culture. And just knowing some of the phrases and some of the Hawaiian words kind of helps prepare you and gets you in that mindset to travel into this amazing culture. Whenever I travel, there are a few necessities that I make sure I always bring. One is a water purifier, so we don't have to buy water whenever we travel. And the other is CBD oil and CBD gummies. Matera's new full spectrum CBD gummies help to curb any travel anxieties that I've had and have helped reduce pain, like after a long hike. And unlike many gummies out there on the market that use animal products, Matera gummies are vegan, free of additives, fillers, and processed sugar. To try CBD for yourself, go to hawaiisbesttravel.com/CBD and use code Hawaii at checkout for 50% off your first purchase. Go to hawaiisbesttravel.com/CBD and use Hawaii at checkout. All right, the next thing is be sure to bring your own reusable bags, or you'll be paying for your own reusable bags on island. There is a plastic bags ban in Hawaii. Say you're staying on Oahu and you're on the west side, kind of in that Ko'olina area. You got your Target, you got your Costco. You're going to want to make sure that you have your own reusable bags when you shop, or you can buy your own there. All right, the next one and last one is to be respectful of ocean safety and also hiking etiquette. What I mean by that is the ocean is more intense here. Go out with someone else rather than by yourself. Watch the waves rather than the shore and be aware of signs, especially about closures. If in doubt, don't go out. And even if things look calm and the waves are breaking and they look great, things can change pretty quickly and you can get a gnarly rogue wave hits you. So be sure you don't turn your back to the ocean. Be aware, be cognizant, because it's super important to be aware of being safe. Yes, there are incredible lifeguards, but those lifeguards are working hard to watch over everybody. So the best you can, do your part in just being aware of the ocean. And same thing when you go hiking. We've done many podcasts on this, but when you go hiking, be aware of the trailhead, be aware of where the trail is and where the trail ends, and don't go where it ends and don't go off the trail. It's important because it's not just things to like, don't do this, don't do that. It's important because Hawaii is so beautiful and its nature is so raw and so magnificent. However, it's also very dangerous and it can be unpredictable. So please be aware of that. But you're going to have a great time if you follow these things to what to know before you travel to Hawaii. So thank you so much for listening today. And you can find all of this on a blog post by going to hawaiisbesttravel.com/episode 65. It's 65. And it'll be all there for you. Again, thank you so much for listening today. And if this episode brought you value, I just want to ask you to please consider leaving a review. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, that really helps the show out a lot. And I appreciate your time and thank you so much for listening. And until next time, be well. Aloha.
Thanks for listening to Hawaii's Best Podcast. To stay up to date on future episodes, be sure to subscribe. For more information to help you plan your next trip to Hawaii, visit hawaiisbesttravel.com.